do you care to share any of the experiences that you had, or?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's no problem. I've been pretty open about them in the past. The one thing that I never wanted to do when I started out was to make it about me, right? Like for me, it was
Sure.
always about these witnesses because you get into the paranormal field and I don't have to tell you, I'm sure, but there are some real personalities here, and they love to make
Sure.
things about themselves. And there's just sort of, I don't know, narcissism or inauthenticity to that just was not attractive to me because, of course, if you're telling your own story, you're promoting your own story, then you have a vested interest in that particular story, often a financial interest. And I think then that there are some red flags. It just sort of makes it less credible. But also, I'm just kind of an introverted person anyway, and I don't always share my business with people.
Sure, I get.
So like there's that element of it too. But yeah, I definitely don't mind talking about it. I've found over the years that people, well, especially experiencers, when they find out that you've experienced something too, then that itself can be pretty comforting. So, yeah, I mean, from a very, very young age, and I mean like 2, 3, 4 years old, like that age where you don't even have like full memory. You've got like fragments of
Right.
memories, like just images, right? I remember being terrified of going to bed because I knew when I did that something was going to happen, something was going to come for me, right?
Uh-huh.
And so going all the way back then, like if we just start with those fragments, it would be like waking up feeling like something is digging painfully in my ribs or like hands trying to get underneath me to pick me up, sleeping with the covers over my head, like that tried and true method of self-defense against all monsters that
Right.
doesn't work even a little. I would do
Right.
that. And I remember seeing like what looked like hands, like human hands, basically pressing in from the outside of that blanket. And honestly, if that's all it ever was, then that could have been written off as like childhood imagination, dreams, who knows, right?
Mm.
But as life went on, I continued to have experiences. I would see, I guess, what would best be described as like shadow people, and that could be any time, nighttime, daytime, whatever. And the nighttime visitations continued. I remember into my teen years, waking up to see what, for lack of a better description, would just look like traditional gray aliens leaning over my bed.
Uh-huh.
Which again, if that's all it ever was, then you could say, well, maybe that was like some sort of hypnopompic hallucination or something. But I remember one particularly impactful experience. I was in my early 20s when this happened. And I remember waking up one night. I was living at homes. This is the suburbs of Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. And I had gone to bed normally, that nothing was out of the ordinary. And I woke up very suddenly, and I could see in the ambient light of the suburbs through my window that everything was in my room. And well, first of all, I was in my room, and then I looked around and I could see everything was kind of where it was supposed to be, but my perception was skewed, right? And it took me a second to figure out why exactly that was. But when I realized what was happening, it seemed like I was floating 2 or 3 feet above my bed. Now, I wasn't paralyzed. I could move. I decided sort of in that moment it might not be the best idea to move a lot because I
Sure.
didn't really
Right.
know what was going on.
Uh-huh.
And so I really only moved my head. I remember I turned my head to the left, because the to my right was the wall, and I turned my head, and when I do, I see this figure, and it looked like just this solid black silhouette of a human. I mean, based on the silhouette, I would say male, but I mean, who knows, right?
Uh-huh.
And I look at this thing and I get the distinct feeling that like I'm not supposed to be awake for any of this. Like this is a mistake. Like none of this was
Right.
planned. And so this thing, whatever it is, it reaches its hand out and it puts its hand on my chest. And in the moment, I interpreted that as like being comforting. I don't really know what this thing's motivation was, but it
Yeah,
seemed
sure.
comforting. Like you would put your
Uh-huh.
hand on somebody to try to comfort them. And when that happened, I was lowered back down to my bed, and then it just vanished. And I find myself laying there on top of my covers, which was unusual because I didn't really like to be on top of my covers a lot. I still don't. And I just thought about it for a minute, and I was like, did that really happen? I mean, I was fully awake, right? Like if I
Right.
was asleep for that, I might be asleep for this conversation. Like that's how it felt.
Sure. Right.
And and so at that point, and people always ask, like, well, weren't you scared? Why didn't you go wake people up? I'd be screaming. And it's like, well, first of all, at that point, I had decided if whatever this was, whatever I had seen or encountered or had been experiencing throughout my life was going to hurt me, it would have hurt me way before then. Like I
Uh-huh.
wasn't
Sure.
harmed. And I had also learned at a very young age that it was pointless to go wake up my parents. Like that never ended well. And it really wasn't,
Right.
it's true. And it wasn't until I started writing about this professionally that I think they really started to take it seriously. So like now you talk to them, they're like, oh yeah, no, of course. Like we always believed you. And I'm like, did you though? Did you really?
Right, right. Well, it's
So
like every time you hear a ghost story, me and my wife laugh when we'll listen to them on, podcast or whatever. It's like the families never talk to each other. So they'd be like, I was
right.
witnessing this, I was witnessing this, and the parents are witnessing things, and they're like, no one ever talks to each other, or the parents always deny it, and then later on they talk. So I believe that. I believe that completely. So it's funny because it is really natural, right? I remember, not anything supernatural, but Palmdale still is. And when I was growing up, fairly rough and tumble. There's a few times I'm walking. It's dirt town. It's Mojave Desert, and it's dirt on the instead of sidewalks. I'm walking, and there's like twice like cars literally veered off the road to try to hit me, like veered full speed into the dirt. Yeah. Luckily, I was a quick kid. I was able to get out of the way. And I never once thought about telling my parents what happened. I'm like on my way
Right.
home. I'm getting home. They're probably making dinner. I'm probably sitting down and having tuna noodle casserole, with them. Never, oh, I should tell them about this. So, because, there's probably that things like one, like if you wake them up, they're gonna like be upset you're waking them up. Are they gonna
Yep.
even believe you? Like, do you even completely believe yourself? Because it's such a strange thing. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I can.
It's all of that.
Do you ever lucid dream? Have you ever had any lucid dreams or like sleep paralysis, anything like that?
Sleep paralysis, no. Lucid dream, not anything that I've ever done myself. I guess, I mean, maybe to a limited degree. I say this because I'm not any kind of lucid dreaming expert, but I've
Oh,
certainly
sure, yeah.
been in that position, I think, when I was asleep and dreaming, and you sort of realize, well, okay, like what if I could fly right now? And then like you are
Uh-huh.
flying.
Right.
But it was never anything that was so intentional. And that's
Uh-huh.
something I've thought a lot about, honestly, especially sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is sort of the swamp gas or weather balloon of a lot
Yeah,
of
right.
haunting or like
Uh-huh.
alien
Right.
experience or kind of explanations where I will tell people, I'm like, look, I don't think it was sleep paralysis. And I'll tell somebody, like a friend, and they'll be like, have you considered sleep paralysis? And I'm like, dude, I just said,
Right, right.
because there are hallmarks to sleep
Right.
paralysis, right? Like it's a
Uh-huh.
fairly well understood phenomenon. And so when I ask myself honestly, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, using that experience that I just shared as an example, first and foremost, like I wasn't paralyzed, but beyond that, the hallucinations that accompany the waking and and falling asleep states, like those are distinct altered states, and we understand that. But the hallucinations, like they don't last very long, right? Like the only
Right.
reason that they would ever last for any period of time during sleep paralysis is because your body gets sort of locked in that half dreaming state. But that clearly wasn't happening to me because I could move and I
Right.
felt very lucid. I felt very awake in that moment. And so that lasted way longer than any normal hallucination. Like maybe I have been suffering from this heretofore undiscovered hallucinogenic phenomenon, or and maybe I should be studied. I have no idea. Like that's
Yeah,
cool
maybe.
too,
Yeah,
I
no.
guess.
Right. Right.
Thanks for checking out this clip of Writers Drinking Whiskey. For the full interview, check out the main channel. I'll have it linked on the screen here and in the description. I'm sure you know where that is. And if you want more from Writers Drinking Whiskey, check us out on the main channel. We have full-length interviews, author panels, shenanigans of the highest order. It is a load of fun. We hope to see you there. Cheers.